I remember the heat of the afternoon sun pressing through the cracked windows of the school theater, dust swirling in its gold glare. My white shirt stuck to my spine under the loose black apron, and my trembling hands gripped the ceramic plate too tight, eager not to drop it. The jury sat in a neat row behind the folding table, curled lips and half-moons of lined notebooks, the headmaster in her severe dress at one end. Besides them, a gallery of parents and classmates fanned themselves with programs. A few rows back, my mother perched in a wrinkle of her red purse, lips pursed so tight you could have split steel with that frown. My uncle was beside her with crossed arms, amusement flickering in his eyes. They didn't hide their impatience or their skepticism. All week, the other kids practiced concertos and monologues. I'd spent days in the half-broken kitchen in the back room, sneaking off to experiment with flour and sugar after finishing my required piano piece. The headmaster tried to talk me out of it more than once. "It's a music recital, Renata," she'd snapped, eyes tired. "Not a fera." But even the piano wasn't really my thing. It was baking molding sweet dough with my hands, watching it turn amber in the oven, smelling the hot caramel air. That was my home. We'd been ordered to express ourselves, and I took her at her word. But now, as I shuffled across the bare stage beneath all those skeptical gazes, the self-assurance I felt in the kitchen was evaporating fast. I set the plate, a sugar-dusted pain dulce filled with guava paste, on the cloth. I cleared my throat. "Instead of music," I said, "I wanted to share something from, something I love." My voice was thin. Someone in the front snorted. A pause stretched. Sweat traced my temples. I saw the twins in my class watching, mouths twisted in open curiosity. My teacher's lips moved as if in prayer. I picked up the bread and sliced it, the knife trembling. Guava ribboned out pink and sticky. The scent of butter filled the corners of the stage. But the headmaster only blinked. Someone coughed. I offered a piece to the first juror. Her hand hovered, and then she shook her head, mouth taut. "This is supposed to be a musical recital, Renata," she said. "We expected piano, not cakes." "It's not a cake," I started, cheeks flaming, but laughter rolled from the seats behind. A low, viral giggle, snickering from the backs of hands. I heard my uncle's voice, loud and clear. "She wants to be a cake maker, not a doctor, not even a teacher." My words tangled in my throat. The plate felt heavy. I saw the jury's faces, impatient and embarrassed for me. Tears prickled my eyes. A sound half of frustration, half despair, forced its way out of my chest. I left the plate on the table and bolted, the laughter peeling at my back, bouncing off those painted walls. I heard footsteps. I kept running, not daring to look back, until I found the alley behind the cafeteria where no one ever went except stray cats searching for scraps. In the sweltering shade, I pressed my forehead to the wall. I wanted to punch something. Part of me raged. How dare none of them try it? How could they laugh at something so simple, so true to me? But mostly, I felt raw and small, standing there with my burning cheeks, my apron wrinkled and sticky. I heard my mother's voice echo, "Dreams are fine, but they have to feed you, not just your cartera." And something inside me froze, then settled, heavy as bread dough waiting to rise. It started then, the years of ridicule. Within days, everyone at school seemed to know. At family lunches, my uncle teased, "Going to the São Paulo Sugar Queen, eh? Save us your scraps." My cousins mimed mixing bowls at Christmas, making a game out of my shame. I stopped bringing up baking at the table. At first, I tried to explain. "It's not just making cakes," I'd say, trying to keep the heat from my voice. "There's art to it, chemistry, precision." But they rolled their eyes, tuning me out. My mother warned me, over and over, to keep my head realistic. "You're not rich. Restaurants are for people who already have money or connections, not for us. Find something steady. I finished school, avoiding the kitchen at home, only giving in at midnight when everyone else slept, and I could measure, mix, knead in silence. My father, already gone to work in the city by daybreak, never noticed the missing flour. Still, the idea grew. I started reading recipes as if they were scripture, copying out the ratios in the margins, sneaking phone minutes to scroll through photos from French patisseries and Tokyo dessert shops. I saved money from tutoring neighbor kids in math, spending it on unsalted butter and squares of dark chocolate I hid under my bed. After high school, I was expected to enroll in a simple business administration track at the public college. Instead, I found a spot barely affordable with a patchwork of scholarships and part-time jobs at a culinary technical school in Villa Mariana. The day I told my mother, she looked as if I'd told her I was running away to Qatar. "You're too smart for this. Don't waste your life." She wouldn't look at me for a week. I spent exhausting years working early mornings as a cashier in a bakery, sifting flour before the city even woke, then rushing to class smelling of coffee grounds and yeast. Most students came from bigger means, sleeker uniforms, newer knives. Sometimes when the chef instructors weren't looking, I took home leftovers, saving corners of brioche in wax paper so I could dissect the texture at night. Word from my family trickled in, sharp as vinegar. My aunt suggested I send home what little I earned instead of playing with sugar. At holiday gatherings, I endured smug questions about internships. Every success, every small triumph was met with backhanded encouragement or downright skepticism. But the work burned in me, kept me upright through shifts and self-doubt. There were evenings I sat on my window ledge, knees to my chest, watching the city lights spider out down Avenida Paulista, wondering if I'd made a hopeless mistake. But in the kitchen, heat and scent and the tactile press of dough made the world align. When I learned to temper chocolate so it snapped perfect and shiny, or spun sugar into filigree, so delicate it seemed to flee from touch, it felt briefly that I belonged somewhere. 5 years passed. I won a minor city pastry contest. No recognition from home, but a local chef offered me a slot as a junior pâtissier. I took it, working shifts longer and harder than I'd ever known, barely pausing to call home, unless out of obligation. My hands grew calloused and quick. I started submitting recipes to online magazines, translating my mother's old sweets into clean modern forms. I saw my name, tiny, but there in the bylines. Still, the anger from those early years stuck with me. It ran alongside my determination, driving me when exhaustion threatened to tip me into defeat. I don't think anger's always ugly. It can keep you alive. In time, my desserts caught the attention of a well-traveled restaurateur who offered me a partnership in opening a shop. There was no money for investment, but I didn't let up, posting photos, holding tastings, sharing small stories about my family's recipes. Gradually, crowds formed. Then came reviews, bloggers, then newspapers, then an appearance on television. A Japanese chef touring Sao Paulo praised my guava pone doce and orange blossom eclairs, calling them a revelation. Orders multiplied, and by the 3rd year, we won an award for Best New Pastry Shop. I was invited to Paris for a workshop, for the first time since childhood. People seemed to understand what I saw in flour, butter, sugar. But even with this quiet success, I almost never returned home. Part shame, part anger, and a thick seam of pride. My mother called sometimes. She listened politely and told me about neighbors' marriages and cousins' jobs. But not once did she ask about my shop, never asked to visit. My uncle sent a text one holiday. "Maybe you'll bake for a wedding someday, if this keeps up. Or maybe a Nobel." I didn't answer. Then, one June, my mother fell ill. Nothing dramatic, but enough to bring an insistence in her voice that she hadn't used since the days of school. She told me, haltingly, that the community center was holding its annual feast. You could come. You haven't shown your face in years. I could hear the old defensiveness behind her words, but there was something else there, quieter, almost hope. It had been nearly a decade since that school recital. I felt that coil of anger unwind, slowly, replaced partly by nervous peace, partly anticipation. I told my business partner I'd be gone a weekend. He grinned. Take a cake, chef. On the bus, Sao Paulo shuddered past in a haze of gray and neon. I watched the recognizable lines of the suburbs unspool, growing smaller, more worn. The station by my old neighborhood was unchanged, concrete, sunburned, the kiosks selling pastel and caldo de cana. My mother met me at the stop. She looked older, skin softer, back stooped. She didn't scold me for the suitcase filled with insulated boxes. That night, the house felt crowded and strange. My little cousins were all grown up. My uncle still sipped his beer at the kitchen table, though the mockery that flared in his eyes had dulled. My mother made her own guava bread, and the room filled with the old, thick sweetness of fruit cooked in sugar. The scent tugged at something in me, sharp but softer now. The community feast the next night filled the square beneath the humming street lamps. Tables were cloaked in paper. Children darted between chairs. Neighbors greeted me with some warmth, some cautious curiosity. Word had spread that I lived in the city, ran a fancy cake place. I shrugged off their questions, wheeling my suitcase behind me. My mother had arranged with the organizers to let me set up a table. I unpacked trays, passion fruit tartlets with coconut crust, chocolate bain de mel piped with spiced cream, the old guava pain doce reimagined in glossy, swirling braids. A croquembouche, a pyramid of golden caramel-glossed choux, crowned with spun sugar, stood proud in the center, taller than any kid in the square. At first, people passed by with bemused glances, eyes skeptical. Looks expensive,